and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Basically, a lot of the things that we were worried about are coming to fruition with the dissolution of Roe v. Wade. We have um, women who are, and like pregnant people who are being forced into labors that could potentially kill them because doctors are afraid to break the law of their state. Um, there was a woman in like 5 women in Texas are suing now based because of this. All of them have ectopic pregnancies. They all know that their pregnancies cannot be um, like carried to term. The babies will not be born viable, like all 5 of them, and yet the doctors can't do anything about it. One of the women, Amanda Zarowski, actually, like, she found out at 17 weeks that there was no way her baby would survive. No way at all would her baby be able to survive being like the pregnancy. But the doctors were afraid that they would get there's a jail sentence, there's a huge fine. Like, they were like, this could ruin the doctors. They were afraid to do anything. She ended up having to deliver a
Oh God.
stillborn, and she went into sepsis. So she ended up almost dying. She went into the ICU. Like this is after years of trying to get pregnant, of like using fertility treatments, of doing everything that she could in order to have a baby. And then when she managed it, it ended up going poorly, but the doctors couldn't do anything about it. And now, because of the trauma afterwards, like, she might never be able to get pregnant again.
My God.
It just might not happen. And all of that because the doctors were like, well, I can't do anything about it because Texas has the heartbeat. It's an almost entire Texas is not only just a heartbeat ban. Texas almost has like no like exceptions. So
Mhm.
So, and of course, the spokesperson for the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who is named as a defendant in the case, says that Attorney General Paxton is committed to doing everything in his power to protect mothers, families, and unborn children, and he will continue to defend and enforce the laws duly enacted by the Texas legislature. Which I'm like, how? How is that? What happened to this woman? What's happening to the other 4 women in the lawsuit? How are you protecting them or their non-alive babies? Like, they're
Mhm.
not, like, they can't serve if the fetus is not viable, like, they still have to carry it the whole way to term. And like, I can't even imagine what that would do to your head, like,
Exactly.
at all. So this is another article that's very specifically about Amanda Zarowski. The other one was about like all of the women, but it's not just Texas. There was a woman in Louisiana who,
Oh
again,
boy. Yeah, this story I was reading through. I don't mean to
yeah,
interrupt you, but when you hear about what happened to her fetus and what she had to do, it's really devastating. And the thing is, in 2018, I don't mean to cut you off here because I want you to continue on with the story and people need to hear what happened in Louisiana. But in 2018, we did a story when we were still on radio about women coming to the state of Illinois because, at least under Pritzker's administration, yes, I'm going to say some nice things. That doesn't mean I endorsed the guy, but I can give a proper analysis. Under his administration, a woman's right to choose in this state has been protected. And unfortunately, during that time in 2018, there were a lot of calls for women trying to come to the state of Illinois so they can get here and, deal with, having an unviable fetus, or, if they weren't ready or they were a victim of assault. Again, I got to be careful with the words here on YouTube. They were able to do so, but those phone lines were being bombarded a lot and people were overworked. And I just can imagine how things are now. Again, activist groups. If this happened under Trump, I know what all of you would be doing.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, this woman, she found out that her fetus would not have a skull. Like, it didn't develop properly. There was no way that it was going to survive. Like, it doesn't have a skull, this fetus that she was carrying. But Louisiana has outlawed abortion with almost no exceptions, and like, that was part of a trigger law, but then like they've doubled down on it as well. She was 10 weeks pregnant. That's not even like, that's pretty early in the pregnancy. Like, and yet they found out that this condition, like, this baby would not survive more than minutes, like some maybe a day or two, but like it would not survive the life at all. And so I know that some people will say, like, well, even a moment is more than that. But I'm like, but that's not going to be the case for everybody. Some women are not going to want to carry to term if they know that they'll get less than a minute with, like, that's and again, that's where I'm supporting the right to choose specifically. It's like, if you want to carry a baby with this particular uh issue to term, that's on you. But this woman didn't want to do that. And I feel like that makes perfect sense. So Louisiana has some exceptions, but not this particular one. This was not listed. Like, the acrania was not listed in the things that you could get an abortion for. So her doctor wouldn't do it. The hospital that she had her ultrasound and where they told her this, we're like, we can't do it. We're worried about going to prison. We're worried about fines. We're worried about forfeiting our licenses. I can't do it for you because this particular thing is not listed in our list of things that we can use. So she was like, okay. So she says, basically, I would have to carry my baby to bury my baby. And
no one should go through that. That is barbaric.
It's horrifying to me anyway. So she, went to New York to get it done. She got a GoFundMe that people donated to. She initially apparently wanted to go to North Carolina, but someone was like, maybe not. Maybe go a little further. So she did. And like, this is one of those things too. Davis is one of only one member of a group of women or girls or people who are pregnant who have been forced to take gut-wrenching actions in the aftermath of the elimination of nationwide abortion rights. This is the part that like rocked me. A Florida court recently blocked a pregnant 16-year-old girl from having an abortion, deeming her too immature to decide whether she should have an abortion, and instead requiring her to carry the teenager to give birth to the baby. It's like, she's not mature enough to decide that this is part of the same article that we were just in. She's not mature enough to decide that she can have an abortion, but she's mature enough to have the baby. Like, I don't understand the logic of that at all. I will never understand the logic of that at all. And like, again, like I don't remember if we talked about this much on the show, but earlier in the last summer, a 10-year-old Ohio girl had to travel to Indiana to get an abortion. 10 years old. 10. Because they wouldn't do it in her state. Like, it's absolutely despicable the way that like the lawmakers are treating this, because it's like they say over and over and over again that they care about women, they care about children, they want it, but every single law they make that prevents women from getting the care they need, or children from getting the care they need, like, yeah, well, and Indiana later passed a whole bunch of laws too, Karen, like that made it so that they couldn't, so like it would have been more difficult. But at the time she went there, it was a little bit easier. But like the point is, it's just despicable the way that they are treating, people with uteruses, young children, like, and it's like, and like, if they cared about the baby, they would care about the care that the baby would be getting after it was born. And they clearly don't. They clearly don't care about what the quality of life is going to be. They just want more little workers is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
I hear you. For me, just hearing stuff like this again, look, I know in 2024, we're all going to be bombarded with emails from the Democratic Party. Donate money to us, and we'll protect a woman's right to choose. Roe v. Wade died under a Democratic administration when the Democrats still had somewhat a majority in the House and Senate, and they still screwed it up. Barack Obama got into office with a supermajority in the House and Senate, and he said he cared about, codifying Roe v. Wade, and then he said, can't do it right now. We'll worry about it later. That's the Democratic Party there, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this happened. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, like, also in the similar vein, like the Dems will say, like, vote for us because this is a terrible thing. North Dakota, a very red state, just protected abortion rights. So, like, if and it's happening in other red states too. So, like, the whole point is, like, it's not. I mean, a lot of red states are being truly, truly heinous about this. But there are other ones that are not. So it's like, again, you can't look at it as a strictly partisan issue, because you do see on the other side of the aisle protections happening, even where their cohorts are not protecting anything. And like, again, you see in blue states it's protected, but you don't see as much pushback. It's just like, okay, well, we know it's safe here. You don't see people in those states protesting. You have red states like Kansas where it's on an initiative, very complicatedly worded, but the people still vote to protect abortion. Like, you see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have things like in Ohio. This is a fascinating story. Like, they are one of the people who is presiding over a trial to see whether or not abortion rights will be protected or not, was on the board of a crisis pregnancy center. He has campaigned multiple times on being very pro-life. And crisis pregnancy centers, for those who don't know, put a lot of time and effort into convincing people not to get abortions. They do that through lies, through manipulation, through like gaslighting. And this is a man who was on the board of one of these crisis pregnancy centers. And now he is going to be one of the main people who decide whether or not this particular injunction in Ohio is allowed to go through at all. The first guy who was supposed to determine whether or not the injunction was allowed was removed himself because he's a defendant in the case. So, like, we're talking, conflict of interest in the highest degree at all levels of this freaking court, who's trying to decide whether or not we can even hear the case at all. Which is just like, I don't and obviously people are talking about it because it's in the news, but the fact that he was even allowed to be placed in this particular position of power when everything he's ever done has, in this particular regard, has been to prevent people from being able to get the care they need, is just, I mean, it answers a lot of questions about the state of where we are and where the Ohio government is specifically, but like in general, like what we are allowing to happen. And again, like, these people got voted in.
Yeah.
I mean, with judges, it's sometimes a little difficult because a lot of the times they are running unopposed. So there's not another choice. Or like when you vote, it's like you're voting whether or not to get rid of them. And people often just skip over the judge part.
Yeah,
but
and that's the thing. Like, folks, you do want to. Oops. Oh, let me go back to that. Oh my goodness, sorry about that.
Yeah.
All
so
right,
this is what the board that he's been assigned to. They're reviewing specific questions like, can the judiciary actually do anything about abortion rights? Like, basically, that's what can abortion clinics challenge the ban? Can the attorney general appeal orders while there's ongoing cases? So like, that's what it's not like specifically about abortion rights, but it's about deciding what will happen in these cases going forward. And he has been and that's incredibly important.
Agreed.
And he's been given a huge platform to decide what happens with abortion cases in his state forever.
Exactly. And unfortunately, folks, I mean, this is happening under a Democratic administration. I need all of you to be made aware of this. Just be ready for 2024. And don't believe the hypes that's going to be coming or the promises coming from the Democratic Party. Because if they really wanted to, they'd be fighting harder to codify Roe v. Wade. They would have been fighting harder to do something. And it's going to be in our hands. And there will be citizen ballot initiatives that will probably be on the ballot if your state is a citizen ballot initiative to call for a woman's right to choose, that it's protected in your state. do the right thing. This is an unfortunate nightmare that that's happening here in America, and it's not getting. There's going to be more horror stories, and I don't want to see it. But hey, Democrats, you could have done something. You had the power. There's no excuse. Hell, you could have done something in 2008. We wouldn't be even talking about this, would we?
No.
So there you go.
Just like, and that's just to finish it off, just as like kind of an extra little proof about what like judges, lawmakers, what these people really think about women's rights and abortions and the fetuses and several. A Virginia judge used a 19th century slavery law to rule that frozen embryos are property or chattel. It was like a divorce case, but he decided he used this like slavery law to decide that unborn fetuses are in fact property. They are considered chattel, and therefore whoever owns them can do what they want with them. But that doesn't follow through the whole way to its logical conclusion that means that I can get rid of it if I want to. And the fact that he used a slavery law at all, the fact that there are still slavery laws on Virginia's charter is very disturbing to me.